Hello, Duncan here from Video Mania 2, and today we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some upcoming movies for 2025. I'm more optimistic about this year as far as new movies go. I normally talk about older movies because most of the new movies just really don't capture my interest much. And 2024 was an especially weak year for newer movies as far as quantity and quality. I was really disappointed. Now, a lot of that had to do with the writers and actors strikes, so there wasn't a lot in the pipeline like there normally is. But here I'm more optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but there are some movies that are coming out this year that I'm at least curious about. And I came up with 14 movies that I'm going to look into checking out in the theater, possibly, but I don't go to the theater that much anymore because of the 30 minutes of trailers and just the cost and finding somebody to go with. There's a lot of factors that go into it nowadays. But these movies, I'm going to look at some reviews of them and do my research on them and at least look into it and then potentially watch them. Now, the first one we're going to start out, this movie comes out in a couple weeks. It's Captain America Brave New World. This movie's had some production problems, extensive reshoots, and Anthony Mackie didn't exactly help his cause. He was talking about the character of Captain America, and he didn't exactly word it that well. And then when he clarified it, I don't think that helped his cause that much. And there's people on both sides saying like, "Oh, he did a terrible job," and some people are like, "He's doing the correct interpretation of the character." I'm not going to get into that because I'm not an expert on the lore of Captain America. But this movie, the trailer actually looks pretty cool to me. So I might check it out. I'm going to see some reviews from other YouTubers, see what they have to say, and then I'll talk to some friends because I do have some friends that'll probably go early when it comes out and they'll check it out and I'll get their thoughts on it. But I'm at least curious about it. It looks like it could be cool. Marvel is not what it was. I mean, there's no denying that. After Endgame, it's been very hit and miss, mostly miss in my opinion. But this movie, as far as the trailer goes, it could be interesting. The next movie is coming out in April, I believe. It's Sinners, and it's directed by Ryan Coogler and stars Michael B. Jordan. They're collaborating again. And here, Michael B. Jordan, it's a dual role. He's playing twins, and not much is known about this movie, but it looks like they're going to encounter some vampires. There was a trailer recently released, and it looked pretty cool, but there's not much is known, which is a good thing. They're not giving too much away. It's building up curiosity, but I think that movie has potential to be pretty good, but you never know. The next one, this is probably my most surefire. I'm going to go to the theater. I have no doubt that it's going to be great. I'm very confident in saying that. It is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I think this is going to be great. Tom Cruise always delivers and he goes all out. And Christopher McQuarrie is back, and they work so well together. And I like all of the Mission Impossible movies. I like the first one back from 1996. I even like Mission Impossible 2 a lot. All of them bring their own unique style early on, and then when he started collaborating with Christopher McQuarrie, it's just done nothing but get better in my opinion. So this one is the one, if anyone like, definitely I will make the effort to go to the theater to see it. The next one is F1, about Formula One racing. It's starring Brad Pitt. It's directed, if I'm not mistaken, by Joseph Kosinski, who did Oblivion with Tom Cruise as well as Top Gun Maverick. I think this will be a visual marvel, and I love racing movies. I think this will look really cool. I heard it's very expensive, so I don't know how big of a hit it'll be, especially here because Formula One's kind of a niche sport here. But I've always loved racing movies, so this is another one I'd probably see in a Dolby theater or something with all the engines roaring and stuff. But I think this could be cool. I haven't seen a trailer yet because there isn't one, but it has my curiosity for sure. The next one I've seen the trailer for and it looked good to me is Superman Legacy. Is that what it's called, I believe? It's directed by James Gunn. I really liked the trailer. I have a few concerns about it. It looks like there's too many characters in there, potentially. But overall, it looked good to me. It could be a lot of fun. And I love the Henry Cavill Superman, don't get me wrong, but this one looks a little bit more hopeful. So I hope David Corenswet does a good job with this role. From what I've seen so far, it looks like it could be great. So here's to hoping it is. The next one, it's coming out at some point this year. This one I'm skeptical about, but I still have a little bit of interest because I love the original two movies. This is another sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer. This could either be pretty fun or terrible. I'm very skeptical because I saw some interviews with Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she's like, I don't know if I'm in it, or is she going to be in it briefly? Is Freddie Prinze Jr. going to be in it briefly? Or are they just both going to make a quick cameo and then they're going to try to introduce new characters and just kind of retread the old movies? I hope they do something fresh and exciting, but I'm at least curious about it, but I just don't know. But I will look into some reviews on it or read the synopsis and see what they're going to do with it and try to have an open mind. But when they brought back the Scream franchise, I think those two ones that came out recently were just terrible. The more I think about them, the more I don't like them. I did not care for them at all. So, the next one, I just saw a trailer this morning actually, and it looks really good to me actually, is the Fantastic Four. It looked pretty damn good in my opinion, and it could be a lot of fun. And as I talked about Captain America, you know, in the Marvel universe, they're hit and miss now, mostly miss. I think this one, just from what I've seen in the trailer, this could be a lot of fun. I read somewhere that it takes place in the 60s, so I think you could have a lot of fun with that if that's the case. Um, but after I wasn't really interested at all, but after I was kind of curious about it. But then I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, I could be on board with that for sure. Then the next one, this movie actually was made a couple years ago. It's just never been released, and I was interested in it because I grew up with the original ones. The Toxic Avenger and Peter Dinklage is taking on the title role, as far as I know. Uh, it made the festival circuit, and it's just. And then I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, it's never come out. What happened to it? Look, I think now it picked up a distributor and it's coming out around Labor Day, supposedly. We'll see if that actually happens, but I'm curious about it. I don't know how it's going to be, but the ones I grew up with were just kind of fun, and they were gory and they were completely wacky and crazy, but I did get some enjoyment out of them for what they were. So this one, I'm really, it might have my interest depending on what they do with it. The next one, I really enjoyed the one that came out about 3 years ago now, the Mortal Kombat, the new one. This is Mortal Kombat 2, and Johnny Cage will be in it this time. I'm pumped about this. I really enjoyed the rebooted one that came out 3 years ago, and now they got the characters established. They're going to bring in some new ones, and they're going to start up the tournament, I believe. So that could be a lot of fun. I'm actually pretty psyched about this one. I thought the last one was a whole lot of fun, and I think this one, is going to up the ante here. So I'm really fairly, other than the Mission Impossible, this may actually be second to me as far as one. Like, I think this could be a real blast if they pull it off right. Then we have Predator Badlands, and Dan Trachtenberg, who directed Prey, came back and directed this one, I believe. And I like all the Predator movies except Alien vs. Predator Requiem and the one that the Predators that came out, or The Predator, whatever it was called, that came out in 2018. I thought those two were terrible. But if it has a Predator in it, I've always enjoyed it. Now, the first one's always, classic to me, and I think that's the best. But I enjoyed the second one. I enjoyed Predators that came out in 2010. And I enjoyed Alien vs. Predator. So if there's a Predator in it, I'm going to be interested. So I think this could be pretty damn good. And I'm curious to see how this will turn out. But I'll definitely be keeping my eyes open and checking that one out for sure. The next one, I have mixed feelings about. It is a remake of The Running Man with Glenn Powell taking over for Arnold Schwarzenegger. The original Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger is a movie that's dear to my heart. I just love it. It's just cheesy fun, and Arnold in his 80s prime with his one-liners and just all that stuff. Now, but the movie actually, even for that time, it had some predictions about the future and had some interesting themes that weren't really fully explored that much. You know, it was mainly Arnold getting hunted by some over the top hunters with some cool costumes and some different wild setups. But it takes place in the future, but it was very 80s. But it was an absolute blast. This one, I'm curious what they'll do with it. Will they explore those themes that were touched upon in the original Arnold Schwarzenegger version? Are they going to do something different with it? I'm sure they will. But, you know, as I said earlier, the original is so near and dear to my heart because I just love it. So I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. But hey, it could be good, and I like Glenn Powell pretty well. The next one is another one I'm at least curious about because I think it will be a visual feast in the theaters. It is Avatar Fire and Ash. I actually like the first Avatar that came out in 2009. The Way of Water I enjoyed more than I thought I would, but then I kind of forgot about it. Honestly, as far as Avatar goes, the original was pretty good in my opinion, but part of me always wanted James Cameron to move on to something else. I'd love to see what he would do somewhere else. But now it's pretty much he's going to spend the rest of his career, it looks like, in the Avatar universe. So it's going to be fun to see in the theater. I'm sure it'll be a visual marvel. But beyond that, as far as story goes, who knows? Cody Leach is who came up with the list for 2025. He also brought up the same points I'm bringing to you now, so I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. He brought up some very valid points that I'm reiterating here, so I want to give him credit for that. The next movie I'm very interested in. It doesn't have a firmed up release date yet, but it's The Smashing Machine. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This is about an MMA fighter in the late 90s. His name was Mark Kerr. And I used to watch the UFC in 1997. And I remember Mark Kerr. And he would just come in and grab people in a tie clinch and knee them, and the match was over. I mean, the guy was just a beast. But the UFC was so different back then. It's not like when Dana White bought it and took it over and made it different. But I heard he has a very compelling story in his life outside of the octagon. But I always kind of wondered when the UFC took back off, you know, and got very popular, whatever happened to Mark Kerr? That guy was just a beast. So here you're going to see a story, and it takes a dark turn from what I understand. And The Rock has always, when he plays characters, it's like an extension of him in a lot of ways. And he did that in his wrestling career too. Like he found his niche as The Rock, and he just kind of did the same thing over and over when he was wrestling. And then in movies, his persona is pretty much the same from movie to movie, maybe a few variations, but for the most part, this one, it's going to be a different role for him. And I hope he does well with it, and I think he will. And I think this is a good chance to stretch his boundaries some and see what he can really do and extend his range. I'm really excited about this movie. And the final movie that's coming out, it's shooting right now, if I'm not mistaken, so it might come out later this year. I'm hoping that it does. It is Kickboxer Armageddon. This is a rebooted trilogy from the Jean-Claude Van Damme classic. Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to be in this movie. He's not playing Kurt Sloan this time. He's playing Master Durand. The one that came out in 2016 that I saw, I did not like it. I thought it was a sloppy mess, and it just didn't work for me. But then Kickboxer Retaliation, I enjoyed pretty well. For an old school martial arts flick. I did get some enjoyment out of that one. This one, who knows how it's going to turn out. They're probably not going to have the most money to play with, but I am interested in it because I think I love martial arts movies. So that is my list for this year. I'm sure and I hope some other things come along, but let me know in the comments, are there some movies you think I'm leaving out? Which ones capture your interest? And thanks for sticking with me this long. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.